Mrs. Ibanga, please respond to this tweet. Peter Abiodun says, I'm in my early 30s and I'm a patriotic pessimist of Nigeria. As the professor mentioned China, can we adopt the Chinese model of leadership, scouting, whereby scouted leaders are monitored, ranked, and promoted according to performance and character indices?
Did he say he was a pessimist? Sorry, I didn't get that.
He says he's a patriotic pessimist of Nigeria.
Okay. Okay. Well, the China model has worked, and I actually think that the professor is in a best position to answer this question, having studied the China and the Singaporean model, and it has worked for them. And I know that he also has an institute of governance. So yes, but there's nothing wrong in adopting models that have worked globally, but then it has to be within our own context as well. There are certain things that cannot be compromised on, such as the values of competence, of capacity, of character, integrity, honesty, and some of those things. But are Nigerians the same as the Chinese people? Maybe not. So I think everything has to be within our own context. But if it worked for China, it should work for us. If it worked for Singapore, it should also work for us.
Prof, what do you think?
Absolutely, especially the aspect of contextualization. Values are no respecter of persons. For example, the Chinese have developed because in their culture is emphasis on discipline. That virtue alone adds economic value to them. Why? Because people like to deal with what? Disciplined people. Another virtue is integrity. If I can trust you, do you know that that virtue alone will increase foreign direct investment? Foreign direct investment. Why? Because if I bring my money, I am confident your culture respects what? Integrity. But lack of it has also economic consequences. We don't correlate value with economic development, yet there's a direct correlation. So Singapore, when they started, you know, their social values was just as bad as Nigeria. But this man, Lee Kuan Yew, deliberately inculcated these values of integrity and so on and so forth, that within one generation, the culture of Singapore changed completely. It became an enabling environment where businesses can thrive. Today, Singapore is what? The third or the fourth wealthiest nation in the world, which means value reorientation is critical to national development. And the saddest thing is that our leaders are not paying attention to that. And our youth, our young people are not being deliberately groomed and prepared for tomorrow. And that we will pay for it dearly.
Yeah. Now, let me just read this tweet from Festus. He says, we urgently need to find ways to develop strong and diverse political leaders in our country. Preparation should be compulsory and necessary for our political profession. Please don't call politics a profession. I don't think it's a profession, Festus. But we understand what you're saying. What do you do? I'm a politician. Is that now a job?
No, I'm a professional in politics. Mrs. Ibanga, the value reorientation that we need. Someone had sent in a message earlier that those in leadership might not sign off on those things that would demand that they are accountable or that would hold them in place, that would put them in check. So how do we get that value reorientation we need for the entire citizenry, for the nation, in order to move forward?
It is difficult. First of all, I wish they would agree to constitutional review, but like you rightly said, if it does not favor them, it's not likely they would cooperate with that. However, I think we can start where we are at. And that basically means the groundnut seller must be taught to respect truth, integrity, honesty, and hard work. The average Nigerians can start wherever they are before they come into leadership. As parents, we can start inculcating these values in our family institutions, in our schools, in the market, and in every sphere of our lives. After all, the leaders that finally made it and become, quote, political professionals, they are from the citizenry. They are part of us. They came out from us. But what was the foundation of their lives? These are things that every religion should teach. We should teach them right from our nursery schools up to our primary schools, you know, before we get to the point where we can actually have a constitutional review. That's what I think will work for us.
Okay, Prof. Andrew Enenche says, leadership is the ability of providing solutions to society and her citizens' challenges. It's, however, disheartening to know that those in positions of leadership in Nigeria today specialize in creating challenges for the people. You will agree with me that all the preceding heads of state or presidents since independence have left Nigeria worse than they met her. Do you agree with that?
I'm not sure I totally agree with that. Let's give our nation some credit. We've made some progress. I think the issue is that we are not progressing as fast as the population is growing.
Is that a case of, or would you tie that to the fact that when one leader leaves office, the next leader comes in and does not continue?
Continuity. You are absolutely correct. There's no overarching national goal. If you go to US, they have a 100-year goal. So it doesn't matter who you are.
But you mentioned the national anthem. Is it that the leaders do not understand that the anthem actually is the goal, is like a vision already, which we sing every day?
They don't. There's a disconnect. And many factors are responsible for that. I think about these things all the time. Number one, you know, Europe has fought so many wars among themselves, but they have the ability to forgive, reorganize, and move on.
European Union.
And even from European Union. But for some reason, I'm sorry to say, for the black man, it's so hard for him or her to forgive and move on and shake hands. So we're still fighting tribal wars. We're still fighting religious wars. Incidents that happened in the 60s, we're still dwelling on them. And there's a proverb that says, when you hold somebody down, you must stay down with them. So even you will never get up. You know, it's time we move on. It's time we, you know, hold hands together. And I believe the young people can do it. So, again, as a national vision. And to know that when you develop a nation, it benefits everybody. In Singapore today, whether you're of Indian origin, whether you're from Malay, whether you're of Chinese, you are enjoying the abundance of the nation. We can do the same in Nigeria. But we need a leader that can galvanize us. We need a leader that can tell us, in spite of our differences, we can come together, build a prosperous nation where everybody will belong. We need galvanizers. We don't need leaders that will continue to remind us of the wounds of the past. Worse yet, continue to fund them. We don't need that.
Thank you very much. At this point, we'll say thank you, Professor Vincent Anibogu, Director General, International Institute for National Transformation. Thank you for joining us. From our Abuja studio, we had Mrs. Esther Ibanga, who is Executive Director of WOWW and Rights Activist. Thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me.
Sunrise will be back in a moment. Please join us again.